I was having a conversation with this guy about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about the cost of things, cost of housing, cost of food. And I mentioned that people generally believe that food is significantly cheaper at the market than from one of these fast food places or sit in restaurants. And his response, while I was just kind of, going over, sort of a comparison of both, was that it would be cheaper to grow something yourself than buy it in the market. And when he said this, I always have to preface by going, this is a guy who is on some kind of government program, right? Doesn't have a job, and I'm not saying this to insult him, but it kind of shows a little bit of where that lack of experience with just, I hate to say it, the real world comes into play. I've lived in a lot of different places and had encounters with people who are also just kind of moving around here and there. But one of the things I've noticed is that whether you're living in an apartment building or even just in general at the property of someone else, somewhere that you rent, landlords can be very tyrannical when it comes to what you have outside of your house. I had a relative who wanted to plant a tree, I think on the side of his little apartment building's like number, and not even like actually plant it in the ground, but just have a plant just outside, just I guess decorate it. And the owner told him he could not do that. He was not allowed. So when you factor in that a lot of people live in these different either apartment buildings or just structures that are owned by someone else, they don't have the final say on what around them is, allowed to entail. What I also found interesting is that there was a news story about this lady that had some kind of, I believe it was a chicken or a rooster. Yeah, a rooster that someone stole from her house. They came and had one of those little containers and put it in there. And the relative I was watching this with said, "Oh, they're really upset. Less so about just the rooster, and its well being and concern for the animal, but more so that they're not going to get as many of those eggs that it was hatching." And it brought me back to this guy's comment because I thought to myself, I'm sure he would agree or possibly consider the idea that it would be cheaper to own an animal that puts out these eggs. But then when you factor in, okay, making sure it has somewhere to stay, feeding it, pottying it, then suddenly you start to kind of say to yourself, well, why would I do all of that just for some eggs when I can go to a store and get some and have the same effect minus the year-round taking care of something else. And also just like from the standpoint of, sometimes you go somewhere and you're kind of curious to have something. Like I don't buy, for example, strawberries every month, but every now and again I might want to try some grapes. Do I need to have two, three, four, five, six, seven different trees outside my house of the various fruits that I might not even want to eat every day or every week? So it's like, why does someone who maybe wants to have this stuff every now and again made to feel or look stupid because they're not actively trying to grow something that they might not want to have that often? I don't know. I thought it was so interesting because it's another one of these like instances and examples I've seen where people who are really not that well off themselves have almost a knee jerk reaction to like just to blame someone else for their own shortcomings. Like if you heard his just boastfulness at this line, you would really like it was almost like he believed those of us that go to the market to get fruit or something else that we can theoretically make ourselves, not properties not that won't allow you to do that notwithstanding, we were made to sound like idiots. Like, yeah, they're going over there and ripping themselves off when they could just get these trees and grow them outside in front of their house or on the side of their house and hope that their landlord slash owner doesn't tell them that they can't, because otherwise they won't be able to do that. But yeah, I don't know, it's sad that there's such a constant attempt to make regular people seem just like they're completely dumb, because like I said, a lot of us are just trying to survive. And when I hear comments like that, when I had the one person that said striking teachers, I think from 2 years ago, knew what they signed up for. You know, with regard to like their wages, it's when you hear stuff like this, it really shows you that a lot of the harsher and just nastier kind of comments come from the people that are no better financially anyway than the ones that they're making fun of.